Special announcement, this episode of Arcade Radio is brought to you in front of a live studio audience.
Woo! Arcade Radio!
Wow, that's actually kind of bleak. The fact that people are sitting in front of us listening to this.
Yeah. We're popular.
Episode 3, we have an audience.
It's our first podcast to actually all record together at Arcade HQ rather than over Skype.
Yeah. Well, I'm always in Arcade HQ.
Shish.
This episode of Arcade Radio is going to be all about RPGs, role-playing games. We have literally spent the last 48 hours rolling dice, giving dirty looks, and really wishing we weren't friends with Danny Kelly.
Yep.
Yeah. What a jerk.
What a jerk, yeah.
That's one word for him.
But we're going to talk more about the game that we played the weekend later on. I suppose the first thing we should probably do is actually talk about what role-playing is and what's the bloody point of it.
Mm-hmm.
So RPG obviously stands for role-playing game. Everybody knows that, right? You didn't think it was just some sort of missile.
I did, actually.
You did?
I've
You've been carrying around missiles for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I know, right?
I've been lied to this entire time.
There are no missiles involved.
Damn.
Well, there might be. So it's the whole idea of taking on the identity of a character and acting out in various scenarios. And obviously, whether you're playing pen and paper RPGs, forum-based RPGs, Tumblr RPGs, which
more RPGs than RPGs.
Oh yeah, I suppose it's. I still don't get.
Can't really play the game on controller.
Get it.
The G
I do.
part is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the G is important.
Yeah.
It defines whether it's just a role play between two people or a
A
role playing game, a set out sort of.
It feels like cooperative short storytelling.
I've been put in my place,
Yeah.
haven't I? I think I've been put in my place.
Different schools.
Let's go.
I used to role
Danny's
play
now.
back. No, I used to role play back on Bebo,
Oh,
like back in the
God.
day. Yeah, that's
You.
true. Yeah, as Sasuke.
Oh,
Yeah. I
jeez.
did.
Andy
Right.
Kavanagh's rolling in his grave.
I know. Wait, Andy Kavanagh's dead.
Yeah, that killed him.
It's canon. It's happening now. It's on Arcade Radio. It actually happened. He's dead.
Oh.
Sorry, Andy.
It's alright.
So I guess I suppose we should probably figure out how everybody got into it, or what. I suppose better question. What do you think role playing is?
Personally, for me, it's
Playing Sasuke on Bebo.
no. That was like
Let's talk to someone qualified.
that was like
Actually,
8
yeah, sorry.
years ago.
Your opinion no longer counts.
No, I want to talk.
I'm a ninja.
I'm from the Leaf
Konoha.
Village.
And my brother's really mean. So I'm really mean to my friend Naruto.
Shut up. Okay. Anyway,
Jeez, Sasuke, calm down.
I guess role playing to me is sort of it's like taking all the fun of playing pretend as a kid and sort of amping it up to adult sort of gaming levels. It's your chance to take on a character that you've built, you've created, and occupy that character for however long, be it only an hour-long session or over a few weeks. It's sort of like, especially if you're into drama or into acting or whatever, it's a way to, because I love that, so I think getting into a character and sort of escaping from who you actually are is a lot of fun.
Sounds quite sad.
Yeah.
No, I mean it in a good
Some
way.
revelations about Naomi.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we can. I bet you, oh my god, you have the headband. You probably have a
I don't,
headband.
I used to, I don't anymore.
She totally still does.
Yeah.
It went with Bebo.
Yeah. Then she still
I'll
logs
tell
in
you
to check.
I still remember our whole
Oh
storyline.
god.
Well, we don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Maybe later.
No.
Yeah, some of the things you brought up, I do kind of agree. The whole idea.
Oh, maybe.
Phones off.
The whole idea of creating a character, but it's not just about, for me, it's not just about creating a character. It's about taking part in the world that you know, whether it's fan written or it's based on something or it's from rule books or whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually taking on that character and their experiences, and really, again, that probably doesn't sound you know, as cool as Ryan likes to think he is.
What?
See, he's playing it cool right now. But you know, it's not me when I'm playing the game as such. I am that character, and I'd like to think that when I play, I'm not playing as myself. I'm playing as whatever the.
I mean, you need to base your decisions on what would your character do, not you.
Of course.
Yeah. That's it exactly.
That's the fun.
That's what I get from it. And I will like to point out whether I'm playing an RPG pen and paper game or a console game.
Oh yeah,
that's the attitude I take.
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
I find that kind of difficult in the likes of, let's say, Fable. There is. In Fable, you only you role play good or evil. That's it. There's no
middle ground. Yeah.
No, it's a little different. I think in the likes of, let's say, Mass Effect or Dragon Age, you can find there is a way to get a middle ground.
You can be both.
You can shift between. Yeah. There are certain things I agree with doing, and there's other things I don't agree with doing. Whereas Fable, you're either good or you're bad.
Yeah,
so.
you either sign the petition or rub it on your butt.
But
they are your two options.
That's it. Yeah,
that's the thing. Because in Fable 1, to unlock like the extra special ending, you have to never do a bad act throughout the game.
Yeah.
Which basically means that's the thing. That's the game signing up. You're either going to be totally good
or totally bad. And I remember the first time I did a bad thing in Fable, I accidentally pressed like the X button and cast a spell in the middle of a village and fried a chicken or something. I'm like, you evil man.
Yeah, you grow hordes.
It's an interesting point that's really not conducive to role playing, because to have that be the thing that unlocks the extra special ending is basically saying, no, this is how you're supposed to do it.
There was a bad ending where you could take Jack of Blade's mask as well.
But it doesn't make it. You have to go all out.
There's no ambiguity to it. It comes down to simply like, were you totally good or were you not?
I think in later games they, like in Fable 3 specifically, they do try to give you that kind of, like, you can do a bad thing but you can cancel it out with a good thing or vice versa. But
a bit more of a karma system.
Too little, too late at that stage.
I guess everybody's main experience with, I know my first experience with a role playing game, properly as an understanding of this is a role play game would be Final Fantasy VII.
Oh yeah,
that would be my first.
That or Pokemon Blue.
Yeah, but see, I don't know what it was. I never considered Pokemon a role-playing game.
Well,
that's reasonable. You do. It's that obviously there's that whole idea of you have a party and you go out and they do certain things and you're under the guise of one character. So I guess in that terms.
Well, it's the character growth part of it that gets the kind of because it's not a role playing game in the sense that you're not playing a role in a story.
Yeah, you're not actually who you are doesn't make a difference.
The story is essentially driven by your existence in that world. But there is an element of it when you're building your team of Pokemon and finding who fits what moveset and how to keep things going with the HMs and GMs and stuff like that.
No, I guess I agree to that point, but
I'd say it's pretty much nearly going to be unanimous that the first experience was Final Fantasy in some form.
Yeah, 7,
8, or 9.
I guess Western gamers anyway. It would be.
At this table anyway.
Yeah. I suppose that's probably.
Unless you happen to grow up with a family member who happened to be really into
JRPGs
and that kind of that world,
or even D&D. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Yeah.
But. Okay, so we can kind of state that video games wise, it most likely would have been a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
For us at least, anyway. But outside of let's move to pen and papers. What was your first? What would have been your first kind of pen and paper RPG experience? And how did you actually? I suppose that brings up the kind of how did you get into pen and paper RPGs?
I mean, I'd always seen it on TV shows or on the internet or whatever, and it always intrigued me. I found they were always portrayed really badly in media. They always made it out to be a really sort of like almost too nerdy thing to do. Yeah. But it was actually, I saw the episode of Community where they played Dungeons and Dragons, and that sort of opened my eyes a bit more into actually this kind of has some sort of weight to it. The first one I played was actually at ArcadeCon 2 years ago, and it was the Firefly game that Ryan ran. And ever since then, that group we played would have been our current RPG group. Like 2 years later, we're still playing games together. So that was mine anyway.
I actually got into it through Warhammer. See, we're doubling up on the nerd here.
Yeah.
Because I started playing Warhammer 40k when I was 12.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Do people start playing Warhammer from that age? Like,
yeah.
I Warhammer is always kind of. It doesn't compute in my head. I don't get it.
Yeah,
it doesn't
Like
compute.
chess, though,
chess on
it's
speed,
too
logical.
It?
Like,
it doesn't compute to the
doing?
people who play it.
Okay.
But that's a different day.
I
but
won't be there.
at the time, the Warhammer 40k RPGs were kind of just starting to kick off, and it would have been Dark Heresy that I actually started with. which is a pretty good system to start with. It's pretty legit, but that's pretty much it. I basically just found the book, started playing it, and then I got into it from there.
Anto?
Yeah. It was after ArcadeCon 2012 was when, because that was when I got to know kind of what are you guys like. I kind of felt more. I got to know a lot of you more better. So then from that, I ended up joining Tumblr to take part in a Marvel RP group, and that was kind of my first introduction to the idea of taking over a character and kind of working with a story with other people, and it was based on your interactions with each other and moving the story forward from that. I had played kind of board games with my friends and stuff up and up, but like stuff like Dungeon Quest, which kind of has RPG elements to it, at least in the kind of the fact that your character has a move set, has combat is done. It's very procedural. The combat's done out, and there's items and stuff that get played into it. And then the first time actually RPing, in the sense that we're talking about here, was actually a year ago thereabouts, doing a fantasy RP, and I kind of loved it. So yeah,
Only kind of.
Only kind of. Oh, insulted. I guess mine would have been quite similar in a way. I first got into role playing through it was forum based role playing.
Yeah.
And it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was really, really fun. It unfortunately it did go down a route of there was two separate groups kind of playing and no one was really interacting with each other, and I guess that's kind of one of the reasons I fell out of thread based RP.
Fair enough.
It can go to it can end up becoming kind of a thing of you're just putting characters that you want to get together. And
yeah,
stuff.
Well, and we all had we weren't actually RPing characters from Buffy, but we were in the Buffyverse. And again, we would have like a guest member come in and play Spike or Gisela or Angel or even Buffy.
Cool.
But it was more it was Sunnydale before the end of Sunnydale, so we were all kind of experiencing and then how as creatures you weren't just vampires. There was I was playing a warlock in it.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
There was an acolyte of glories there for years. All these kind of little things that so we tried to tie into like certain events like the mayor attacking the school. We were actually there, but we were doing something else. And all these other kind of little things, but it was really fun. But like that, it unfortunately did kind of go down the route of, my character wants to be with your character, and okay, and so people were forcing things on your characters that I didn't like, and then I was trying to get people into more other stuff that I was more interested in. It just kind of fell apart, so I kind of moved away from it. And I was in college then, and I remember seeing a post on the college community boards, someone looking for players for an RPG. And I said, look, I've done role playing online, can't be much different. Went in, and the first day I had no dice, I had nothing. Like they kind of assumed everyone coming in would be kind of have an idea. And we talked about what kind of characters you play. We talked about the system. And I ended up playing a 15-year-old blind girl, who used air magic. So I basically had like a form of sonar whenever I was around. And she was called Air. But it was EYR, it wasn't A. Airdrala? No, not Airdrala. But I absolutely fell in love with it, and there were moments in that game that I still remember, and I still think about, and I still laugh. There was the time the Earth Mage tried to turn rocks into chicken. She had that ability, she could transmute stuff or whatever. She tried to cast a spell. Yeah, that was rocks is chicken. No, she was trying to turn it into food for us to eat, or at least make the rocks edible. And she ended up creating rock bat babies that exploded out of the fire. Oh my god! And everybody got hit except the blind girl. And I don't know. I still remember that. And as it happened, then that the group that we were in, we failed the I suppose the end quest or whatever. We lost, but. We continued on playing that, and that campaign went for a year. We continued on, and the GM at the time brought all our characters back. Oh. But it was just that the world basically came back into being, and our souls were tied into the essence of the world, and we found ourselves forced into bodies that weren't our own. So we ended up taking over people, or letting them. You either you kept your former identity, or you took over, or the other person won and you died, but you became that character.
Okay.
And I just remember because it was the same group of people. We've been playing for 2 years, and I became this being who was created from magic. We were honestly, I couldn't tell you her name, but I would have the ability to basically read the truth behind words. And I had this special relationship with another character from the previous game. She used to kind of protect me, and that continued on. And I remember she died. She was killed by one of the other players. And the whole epic end fight was happening in this courtyard in the middle of a castle. And I sensed she had just been killed. She was on her way to help us, and another guy killed her. One of the other players killed her. I sensed it, and I rushed out of this huge epic battle against the final boss or whatever, and I confronted him, and I killed him.
Oh wow.
So it ended up that there was originally 5 of us playing, and we were supposed to be, even though we were all different views and political ideologies as characters, we had to kind of work together to defeat this end goal. And he killed someone, I killed him, and we just ended up narrowing it down to 3 against almighty evil. We won. I remember. I think we won anyway.
Could someone double check that, please?
That's a good way to look at it. Is that sometimes you're playing a game, but you and a group of friends are essentially like writing a story more so than. And
you're cultivating a story that, unlike board games and video games, you're cultivating a story that is only bound by your imagination to push it forward.
But I think video games, they're all saying, we're all connected through video games these days, and we all play online, whether it's an MMORPG or something more competitive. And that's great. There are always moments in those. Oh, do you remember when we did that raid, or our team got to the quarterfinals in an esports tournament? You have those memories, but there is something about a shared experience between 4 or 5 people around a table who are only rolling dice. You're not going anywhere, but you're all sitting there and you're all experiencing the same thing. Yeah. Okay, you might be imagining it slightly differently than everybody else, but at the end of it, a week from now, or a month from now, or even a year from now, everyone might get together again and they talk about it, and it's like, oh God, do you remember when? And it's not. Do you remember when we were sitting around the table, rolling dice and rubbing out, character health and magic and mana and stuff like that? Do you remember? It would be. Do you remember when we took on this great evil force and we defeated it, or we lost and it was really sad, and your character died or whatever like that. We had to experience that. That's what you remember. You don't remember rolling dice, and that's that's actually my favorite thing about pen and paper RPGs. I
suppose that's a good. That might be a topic actually about favorite moments from many RPGs, if any.
But I love actually some of my favorite moments of the RPG we just did were like, kind of the fact that you can do a break and then you're with the people, so you can discuss what just happened. And you can actually discuss and kind of like there were parts of the RPG that were kind of spooky, or parts of the RPG that were very tense, and you can unwind by talking about it and kind of and it's
to make sense of it.
It's really, actually a shared experience, and a shared experience in the true sense, not kind of something kind of where you were all playing at the same time. You were all experiencing it at the same time,
living it at the same time.
Exactly, which is something that is like you can make eye contact with people, and you can kind of
it's very unique to the format.
Exactly.
You brought up favorite moments for an RPG.
Yeah, it's a decent topic.
Really tricky one.
I do have one for that from our Firefly RPG, The Tale of the Impossible Box.
Oh my god, yeah.
Is this the thing with the dogs?
No, this is better.
Can't tell that story.
Okay. Not on an ostensibly family-friendly podcast.
No, it's not. Fuck no, it's not.
Bitches.
There were say naughty word.
There were dogs. There was fisting, but we'll move on.
Do it another time.
Now, the Impossible Box was about, I think, a good few months into our Firefly RPG, and the crew had boarded this ship that had previously been attacked by Reavers. And there were, Reavers still in system, waiting, literally 5 minutes away from attacking the ship and getting in at them all. So 2 of the crew members found in that ship's cargo hold a massive cage built into the room. But this was a pre-made adventure that I was just kind of adding bits and pieces into. But it was basically a cage in the middle of the room with another cage inside that cage, and inside the smaller cage was a box, like a big metal suitcase. And the cage had several sort of combo locks and stuff and everything like that. They there was no way that they were supposed to be able to get into that. That was supposed to be a plot hook for a future adventure in the pre-made adventure that there was. So they decided, have at it, not knowing this. They had to successfully guess their way through, I think, 3 layers of code locks, and getting it wrong at any point would have flooded the entire ship with nerve gas.
And we all would have died.
They got it right every time. But then they got in, and the suitcase itself had 3 buttons on it. One button would lock the cage behind them, seal them in, and electrify the cage, and basically leave them to the reavers. Okay. One button would release basically poison from the box itself to kill them, and the third button would open it. So rather than guess at the time, they took the box and just brought it back to the ship. And that was supposed to be like, they were playing a very basic, character level. Yeah. It was supposed to be a top level adventure, but they just took the box, and it ended up making a completely new adventure to finish the campaign on, which is awesome when that happens.
Yeah. That's totally a Firefly, like in the TV show. That's what the crew members of Firefly certainly would have done. Yeah. They wouldn't have guessed the button. They would have said, "Oh no, we'll just take that for later."
Yeah.
Do research.
This looks important.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's
we'll grab that.
I think, going on the whole way that the way the players can ruin, a well thought out thing. As a GM, I'll never forget it. I had a group of players who had a quest. They had spent weeks traveling to the south to meet with the prince. It was this continent ruled by one kingdom, and the king had sent his 3 children. He ruled from the central plains, and he sent his 3 children out to the east, the west, and the south. And to kind of rule the lands there or keep an eye on stuff. But there was trouble. The princess had been killed. The second son was useless, and the third son refused. He basically deemed his kingdom his own, and he had nothing to do with his father's lands or anything like that. But the king had sent the party down to the south to try and get his help to figure out what is happening and understand more about the plot and what's this about an invasion force coming from the Forgotten Lands in the west. Blah 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 blah. They went south, and your man said, "Look, I'm not going to help you, as I don't really like you." And as they were there, then a message basically had come through that the king, had been kidnapped, and he'd been taken into the enemy nation to the north, but not by forces they'd known. It wasn't by people in the north; it was by some unknown forces. So they were told they had to head straight back. They'd literally spent weeks trying to get here. One of the characters lost their arm. Another character went off and had some weird kind of out-of-body desert experience where she ate the other character's arm. There was a giant sand shark with an old hermit living inside him.
Oh, I just remembered this story.
Yeah, and so they get north, and there's this mountain range, and then they have to pass through the mountain range, and they're obviously doing bits and pieces on the way. They're not making them. It's not Lord of the Rings. They're not just walking for hours for no reason.
Yeah.
So there are little side missions and side quests, things that they can invest in, and but they get to here and they're kind of camping, and a lot of stuff has been revealed over the last few weeks of gaming about their characters and who's who and what are they doing, why are they in this party, and blah 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 blah. And they finally make it through this clearing. They've been separated. Louise, who's here today, one of her characters, she had been charged with protecting and taking back one of the party members to her clan. And Louise, she was a bounty hunter, but Louise, former lover, was also a bounty hunter, and they were in like a never-ending fight to the death kind of scenario. Louise killed him there and then. It was a lot sadder than that. But they had been separated from the group. But they knew the original plan was to go north through this pass and then head east to ruined temples. They came through the clearing, like the passage, and decided, let's go west. The opposite direction of where they had to go.
Yeah.
So we spent God knows how long trying to get to the clearing, then through it, to go in the complete opposite direction of where they were supposed to go. And you're just like, I have to completely... It actually ended up making me rewrite a whole lot of stuff I'd actually written. It was like, okay, so now this character who had nothing really to do with the plot is basically core, because I have to make something up on the spot now.
Yeah.
And it completely throws you. That's not one of my favorite moments. That's probably one of my least. That's one of my pet peeves. It's like there's only so much you can plan for an RPG. You know what I mean? Yep. If you storyboard every single scene, it's going to be very, very flat and boring.
You have to be flexible.
There has to be some element, but like you're not, rubber. You know what I mean? You're not. You can't just twist and turn any way you want. Like there has to be a storyline as well to go through it. But I think my favorite scene or moment from an RPG, I played a werewolf game. Rebecca, the web admin and co-founder of the site, she's probably one of my favorite GMs. Wrote this fantastic werewolf v vampire role-playing game, and it was set in like Austria in the 1500s. It was fantastic, but I was playing a female werewolf called Werewolfia. No,
Wow.
no, she was she was Ava. That was her human name. Her werewolf name was she was part of a certain race. Her human name was Ava, but her werewolf name was She Who Hunts the Shadows. And I had to be referred to that at all times because I didn't like being human. Most of the game I spent either in huge werewolfy form or walking around as a wolf. But we were in some city, and I hated being in cities. And guards had seen us interrogate rather violently some scholar or priest or whatever, and they ran to get help. So myself and another player had to chase them down. And all he was going to do was intimidate them. But I decided to go by the roofs because I was a lot more agile. And so I was hopping from roofs and all that. And I could see him kind of cornered by a couple of guards. So I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I have to change into my full werewolf form, which is Kronos, I believe is what it's known as. Krynos. While jumping from the roof. So I jumped from the roof, shifted into this huge... Now, I was quite a tall woman at the time, and you basically... I suppose you triple in size and mass when you go into this form. Well, I think the race I had, it's more about... They were more magic-y than brute strength, but... Because I remember Ted, who was playing the game as well, he was like nearly 8 foot as it was in human form, and when he was huge werewolf slobberiness, he was just like... I looked like a pipsqueak to him, but I basically jumped from the roof, shifted mid-air, and landed on a guard, and he just went... there was just dented armor and blood on the wall.
Nice.
It's funny, like aware characters can be really interesting when they're made correctly. In our group at the minute, we're doing the Dresden Files RPG, which is an urban fantasy sort of wizards, warlocks, monsters, and one of our players is playing a were eagle, so she can shift to an eagle at any point.
A proportionately sized eagle.
So she's a giant eagle when she shifts. And we were like, that's okay, you're allowed to be aware anything in the universe, as long as you can sort of back it up.
So to be aware squid.
Yeah, totally. If you want to. One of the guys in it played aware shark.
Class.
But she didn't realise that taking the were ability meant that she kind of had to build her were character as well as her actual character. So didn't really pay much attention to that side of it. So it came to combat and stuff, and we realised that her eagle had 1 skill point, and it was like 4 points in performance. What
happened is that because it's quite weird the way that system works. If you're playing a were thing, you have to you basically to build yourself 2 character profiles, one for your were stats and one for your man stats. The problem is that all of her stats were in her eagle form. So when she's so when she's a person, she can't do anything.
So she's a were person who happened to be an eagle.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
On the topic of like you're saying there, like peeves and stuff, I think what sort of ruins an RPG for me is people who kind of just don't bother. They're playing the game, but they're not really there.
They don't interact
as like, they're not interacting, they're not playing characters. They're kind of just like, oh, it's my turn, I'll roll the dice.
Yeah, they're not really investing in it.
And I think it kind of breaks them. It's grand for the casual stuff, but
there's the opposite end of that though. Then there's the people who get too into it.
That is the other.
And you're just sitting there and you're like, yeah, look, it's not you, the RPG. You know what I mean? We're all kind of in this together, and you're sitting there, please, just like not even stop playing, but just calm the fudge down, like and they get really hyper excited. And like I remember playing before with this guy, and it wasn't a LARP, but he ended up making it a LARP in his own head.
Those who don't know, that's like
a live action role playing game. And you were saying there how people make fun of RPGs, people who role play, people who RPG
make fun of LARPers.
You know what I mean? There's all that degree. There's certain degrees. I've LARPed. LARPing is fun.
LARPing does look at all.
It's fun.
We're still allowed to make fun of it.
Oh yeah, but we make fun of people who RPG as well.
Yeah,
it strikes me as something that's the same as RPGing in the sense that its fun does rely pretty heavily on the people, kind of a trust to take it I trust that you're all taking it serious to the level, and you're also taking the seriousness and the fun levels for everyone are around the same, so that you all know when to stop taking the piss, and you all know when to.
Yeah, I
actually
remember I was
serious
doing an
about
RP with a guy. It was like on an RPG. It was back when I used to like RP on the internet and stuff. And
Sasuke.
no, it wasn't. This was actually
People
a
stun us,
one.
yeah.
Oh God.
No, but this is just an example of.
Were we Misa?
I wasn't. We were original characters.
Oh.
We
That's
were
even
original
worse.
characters in Wammy's house. And he was very flat. Like I was always the one making kind of events happen or making the characters do stuff. And eventually I just called him out. I was like, "Listen, this is kind of shit. You're not really sort of getting invested in it. You're not making anything happen. It's like maybe you should
Bugger off.
No, I was like, just go for it, make something happen. And he was like, oh yeah, grand, okay. And so the next thing, I was like, right, go for it, make a storyline. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, Elle has pneumonia, and we have he's in hospital.
No money to get meds.
It's like, I'm not playing with you anymore.
I'm going back to my Naruto RP.
Oh god, this is another topic of online role playing. We have a friend who does the Master from Doctor Who, and she.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people who kind of role play Doctor Who fantasize it a lot. They do a lot of shipping. They'll either romanticize the characters in a certain way, or they won't stay true to the characters. But with her, she plays the Master, and once she's the Master, that's it. It's all about what she can get out of people and fuck everybody. And one role player who was a Rose Tyler role player messaged her on Facebook, her profile, saying, can I be on your side because my mum, Jackie Tyler, beats me at
Yeah.
Dear Master, my name is Rose Tyler, and I'd like to join you because my mum, Jackie Tyler, beats me.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Goals. Absolute goals.
You've said before as well. I remember about kind of we were role playing before, and the group you were in, someone they got super strict about the rules of something.
Yeah, that's probably
okay.
my. I mean, no, in fairness,
It was like an epic boss battle, and he just took everyone out of it.
yeah,
because
you
he wouldn't
need
let one little thing
you
go.
need a system for these games. You know what I mean? And that's a huge part of it. You're the dice and your levels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're all a big part of this game. And for me personally, as a GM, I like people who can make their dice rolls work for them.
Yeah.
If you failed, there's a reason why you failed. Like we were talking, when we were playing the game earlier on, and your character in particular kept failing his spell rolls.
Yeah.
But it was, it wasn't, I'm not rolling my dice very well. That's not why I'm failing. It's, I'm currently in battle between these two huge spiritual forces, and I'm a human being, and I don't know what's going on.
It was a very chaotic, confused.
Yeah,
battle.
that's you're able to make. You're able to make it work. It's not just oh yeah, I didn't roll very well. There we go. And there was obviously consequences sometimes when you failed. You burned yourself or whatever. That's the important part of the systems. I see what they have that. They make combat work. They make certain actions work, and that's a necessary part. But this malarkey of actually on the 4th page of the 3rd volume,
rules lawyer
8th edition. I just that's suck. And there's probably people who really enjoy that side of it.
Oh yeah, no, that's
and
okay.
I mean, fair to them, but for me personally, that is just my biggest. That is actually, I think, my biggest pet peeve. Like, rules are there for a reason, but rules like the storyline need to have some element of flexibility. Like, otherwise, people aren't going to enjoy themselves as much.
Like, I mean,
you're telling a story with with it being an RPG, you're telling a story with real people who are playing a character. You're trying to make it as real as possible.
In fairness, I don't know how many daggers Sean's character took to the chest today, and he should technically have been dead. But no one's arguing those points of things. So why are we arguing? Well, actually, you didn't take in the wind effect. And the type of dagger, the metal the dagger was made of.
And also, a character died and took weapons with him when he died.
And he, it was a critical failure. Like, he shouldn't have been able to do that. But it just,
it's
from a story point of view and people's experiences, I thought it worked really well.
It did. It really fit as well for his character, dying in that way. Really, it just worked.
It's the sort of thing where, you do remember, it is very peculiar to the RPG thing in general, but you are telling a story that's actually being influenced mechanically by things that you are doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's great because that leads to twists that you would never have thought of yourself, but then the dice actually provide you the means to do that
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's really cool when that happens.
Yeah.
Like you with the X bomb that was
Yeah.
the whole game. This bomb was
Oh
set
my
up
God,
to
yeah.
be this. We were never told that it was Naomi's character actually who had it, and she had somewhat of a kinship with my character because my character was one of two known, the only two known mages in the party, and she had told me stuff, and it got to the point where she turned to me during combat and was like, "Do you know what this does? Do you like?" I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I think I might just go for it. And we ended up throwing it at the final boss, and it kind of, well, might as well put this out there and see what
I
happens.
assumed once I threw it, it'd probably kill all of us
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
do a chunk to the final boss, but maybe not kill him. So I
Yeah.
thought it might be a bit of a gamble throwing this X bomb, which had been called.
And then it did nothing first, and then
We'll get to that part.
Yeah.
But
We'll keep that twist for the end.
Okay.
That way we'll have to keep listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be same bat time, same bat.
Same bat right now.
Yeah.
But I suppose before we get more into the game we played all weekend, we can't really kind of talk about RPGs without talking about our favorite games.
Of course.
I mean, if you want to say your favorite systems, fine. But
Yeah.
I suppose let's talk PC console games.
PC console games. Kingdoms of Amalur, I think, was a big one for me. I really liked it. It was kind of, it followed the same way as Fable. It can be quite black and white, but there was so much to do. You didn't have like one set storyline to do, and I think it did it quite well.
I actually only got that recently. I can't believe I'd heard of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember seeing, because I saw the trailer like on Xbox Live. I was just going through. I was like, oh, I'm bored. I need to buy a game.
Yeah.
And I've been playing Realms at War, or
Not sure.
it's titled as Raw, but it's Realms at War anyway, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've been playing that recently, and it's almost like it's not exactly a top-down adventure game.
Is it isometric?
Is that where it's at a weird angle?
It's
a slight angle.
It's at a slight angle looking down.
Yeah,
so you're
that's
both
it.
kind of, yeah.
I don't know what that term.
You non-nerd.
No, it's not smart. Yeah, I've been playing that, and I'm really into it, but it is very much a kind of a co-op game. And
Okay.
my brother Matty won't play those games with me anymore because
Oh.
cause it's like we'll both pick your character at the start. And for example, we used to play a game called Champions on the PlayStation 2
Yeah.
a hell of a lot. But Matty would Plick. Thanks for pointing that out. Matty would pick not Plick. Let's say the warrior class, and I'd pick the mage. And we were playing for ages, and he'd be leveling up really, really quickly, and I'm struggling to get past level 3.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's doing these really cool abilities, and I'm doing nothing. What's
Yeah.
wrong with this stupid mage class?
Um,
I'm gonna go be a warrior with you. Let's restart. So for that reason, he won't play these games with me anymore.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
What other ones?
Well, I'm gonna say Final Fantasy 9. We brought up Final Fantasy
Yeah,
earlier on,
that's fair enough.
and then Final Fantasy 7 was my first foray into role-playing games. But
Knights of the Old Republic, I think, was.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
good.
thought that, because again, that didn't have that black and white, good or bad. You could kind of choose whatever you wanted along the way and shape your character over that.
yeah. Just even though he's dead now, even though Andy's dead.
Sorry, Andy.
Final Fantasy 9 is there. We're just mentioning that for because that's if Andy was here right now with us, and he is, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
He would
Andy.
say Final Fantasy 9 as well. I think
You think he would?
he would. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of it's kind of an interesting thing because Final Fantasy, if we are on the whole favorite role playing games thing, because that's mostly what I play.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to say, in terms of Final Fantasies alone, it'd be 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 12.
Yeah. 10.
Honestly,
12,
I didn't get 12 at all.
12
it's
was
definitely
hard
a
to
bit
get.
of a-
12 was
definitely a
hard
bit
to
of a-
get
yeah.
into,
Yeah.
but I think it's probably, purely speaking, gameplay wise, it's probably the best one.
That active battle system is.
I didn't get it. Honestly, I didn't get it at all.
Well, that's the thing. I think it does split Final Fantasy 12 out of all the Final Fantasies.
It splits
it
opinion.
splits opinion.
You know what
quite a
happened?
lot.
I remember playing. Like I said, Final Fantasy 7 was my first kind of foray into. I think we traded my cousin
For Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, we did. He got what was it? Skull. What was that one where you're the knight and you were a skeleton?
Oh, Medieval.
Medieval.
Yeah.
We
Great
traded.
game.
Good
Oh
game.
my
We
God,
traded
yeah.
Medieval for Final Fantasy 7 because my cousin
That's
did
a good trade.
we're like score.
But he was a good game too. So
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
Don't say that at
Yeah,
all.
Medieval was amazing.
Yeah.
But we played Final Fantasy 7 and we're like, oh my god, there's a Final Fantasy 8 coming out. Best thing ever.
and it's still on your shelf to this day.
Yeah.
We were struggling, waiting and dying for this game to come out. Final Fantasy 8 comes out and it's a completely different world with completely different characters
Yeah.
and a completely different system. And I was like, what the hell? Mom, what the hell is... Did you get some sort of like gypped, like foreign version of this game or something? Where's Cloud? Where's my bloody materia? And I've gone back since and played it and finished it. But back then it was like, what the hell am I playing?
Yeah.
I think for me it would be Final Fantasy 10, Fantasy 12, and Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Mass Effect was the first RPG I ever played that let me choose how I wanted to be how my relationship with all the other characters. It's also one of the few games I've played with having those dating elements in it, but it doesn't do it in a creepy or forced manner. Like one of my major problems with Final Fantasy 8 was that it forces the love aspect and choosing one or the other on you, and I'm not saying I have a problem. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to because it's a bigger thing in JRPGs than it is over here, and they were trying to move it in. It just doesn't. It feels tenuous in that game to me. I'm just playing it thinking I don't care about this. I want to continue on with the story.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Well, that was me, and again, I like Mass Effect, but I would be more down the lines of Dragon Age.
Dragon Age was
and the first Dragon Age was fantastic, but
Well, Dragon Age is very much it's made by BioWare. It's the fantasy counterpart to it.
It is, and I became so invested in those games, and obsessed with this is it wasn't. No, actually, I'll be honest. I kind of fancied myself as the character. It's like I'm going to play as I would play, and I'm going to develop my relationships the way I want my
That's
relationship.
totally how I played Mass Effect.
part of it.
And it really allowed you to do that, and it allowed you to do that without it had that nice level between gameplay, and it didn't feel tenuous, and it didn't feel there was micromanagement, but it wasn't micromanagement. You weren't being weighed down by menus all the time and stuff, and and 10 and 12 actually I just love exploring those worlds. Final Fantasy is definitely like they're telling you a story, and you are part of that story.
Yeah.
There's no real kind of moving within that, but the worlds that they create, just to this day, Final Fantasy 10 is still. I just love running around Spira and kind of being a part of that. Like,
10's still my favourite of the series.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll always go back to 9.
9.
I mean, I absolutely adore 10.
Yeah.
9 is awesome though. 9 is kind of it not at the time. Definitely 9 was a breath of fresh air. Having come after two progressively very sort of grim and gritty games.
Yeah, I think if I was ever living in like a gaming universe, I would go straight to 9.
It
It's
has
a nice place.
FF9.
9 probably has out of all RPGs that I've played, 9 probably has the best overall cast of characters in terms of likable, relatable characters.
You learn abilities by wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Actually, while we're
gotta
on,
wear these sexy underpants. and
while
learn
we're on
fire
the
raga.
topic that actually combines all three of these things, as in really, really bright, beautiful worlds, great characters, and learning things by wearing clothes. Another one that had a big impact on me was Dragon Quest 8. Dragon Quest.
The Dragon Quest series. I didn't play them too much, but
I haven't played much of any of the other ones, but Dragon Quest 8 was fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I'd say it's probably the next to 10 that had the biggest impact. Character designs by Akira Toriyama.
Yeah.
So it's got the whole Dragon Ball aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
The whole game is just this bright sort of. It's nearly like Okami almost in terms of how it looks. So that's a big
that's
plus
good.
for that.
I think recently as well, like I have to give it something like Ni no Kuni is just like that to me. When it comes to RPGs on consoles, I'm all about kind of being able to explore and feel out a world and kind of that's the thing when a world looks good and has really well realized it. You can just sit there for hours, really do nothing in the game, but still be entertained by just
your Elder Scrolls and your Fallouts as well.
They're extreme examples of that. Just kind of because with both the Bebo and Skyrim, you're just let out and then go.
I have literally never spent as much time playing a game as I have played Skyrim.
I don't want to say I disagree. I mean, I enjoyed Skyrim. I enjoyed Fallout. I think my problem with those games is they give me too much freedom.
Yeah.
I think I brought this up.
That's why I don't play them.
I mean, I really get into it, and I like shaping the way my character looks and all that, and
it's not micromanagement, really, isn't it?
But it's just like I go off looking for I have to go and talk to the people who are the people that do the voice, the brother
Greybeards, yeah.
Greybeards, and that's like what your first proper mission, other than getting to the first castle keep.
Yeah,
that's your first proper thing to do once you've learned. You are the Dovahkiin.
Yeah.
The first time I played Skyrim, I don't think I even went near the Greybeards for like a week.
I did. I actually have an exact time on it.
Yeah.
I did not finish the first quest until 160 hours playtime.
Like, see, that's my problem. It's like, I'm going to go into this house. Oh no, I stole bread. Now the police are after me.
I have a file in Oblivion that I'm level 30 something, and I haven't talked to anyone main quest wise.
It's the sort of thing though, like that's I know we've been saying this, but like I do end up kind of treating it in a very similar way to pen and paper RPGs, in that it's basically like a separate life, so to speak. And it does, and particularly games like the big open world ones that have randomly generated moments, does end up giving you the sort of things that you might get with a dice influenced story decision. Like there was a point in when I was playing Skyrim where I was up at the College of Winterhold in it. And I just and I'd just gotten back to it, and it was pelting blizzard, all that sort of thing, and then the distinct roar of a dragon echoes through the air, and at this point I was high enough level that it was an ancient dragon, so everybody scurries off into their rooms to be safe or whatever, and I went inside the keep, went up to the massive platform at the top of the college and basically shouted the thing off of the top of the College of Winterhold, and its skeleton lands perfectly in the middle of the courtyard on the fountain, and is just left there, and that's a cool moment.
They kind of
it's like I did that.
Those bones are my bones.
They float too close to Skyrim did anyway. For me, it floats too close to that MMO thing where I just kind of feel aimless in it. Oblivion, I think they had more of a kind of with main quest, but it's
that's depressing then.
It was designed as an MMO and never.
Yeah, I did think it had that. It does have that kind of element. Even from character creation, I got that.
Yeah.
But I think my big thing, like when it comes to MMORPGs, you brought up it's kind of aimless as such.
Yeah.
I don't think they're aimless. My problem with MMORPGs and anyone who I've ever played these games with, be it the other half or friends or my brother Matty, I get so bored so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's not because the game is boring. That's not it at all. It's not that I'm enjoying my experience. It's just that I don't feel like other people are sharing in what I have. Yeah. It's like we're both doing the same quest, but if you're literally, here, give me your hand, I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. And now you go to this guy, he tells you to go there, and now you've got to go to that cave and kill the arachnid. I just, what's
the point?
What? And I think Guild, a lot of them have tried to mix it up. Like Guild Wars 2 had these fate events and stuff like that, and they are interesting. But people are like, well, this fate event is scheduled for exactly 17 minutes from now. So could we get 4 paladins and 2 elementalists? And
it's a very it's just a very sort of, it's a mechanical way.
That's it. And I like, because he tried to get me into Final Fantasy 14 then, or Realm Reborn, and I was quite excited about the fact of playing I'd never played a Final Fantasy game online before, and I was like, okay, I'll try it out, and then everyone was so excited that there was no cap on what you could be. You could be 1 minute you could be a black mage, and then you could decide to be an archer or whatever, and that sounds great, and there's probably people out there who really enjoyed it, but for me personally it was just like, then what's the bloody point of having a party?
Yeah, that's true.
You can, if you're good enough at the game, you can be jack of all trades and do everything anyway.
Yeah, because I mean, there are people who, when they go into it, then they choose to be the healer, or they choose to be the tank or whatever. But
it's too much freedom.
We can all be the tank. Or we can all be the healers. I just.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, the way I say aimless, because I like story. I like kind of, because that's what makes me care about the characters and care about what's going to happen, and that's what makes me scared. Like I'm not like when I play an RPG, I'm not scared because the battle could be really, really tough, I'm scared because I don't know what's going to happen to the characters just before the battle or just after. What's going to happen when the plot moves on?
Yeah.
Is the character, like, after we beat the bosses, there's going to be a cutscene in which in the boss's dying moments it decides to claw at my favourite character and kill them.
Yeah.
And that's...
Or there's some sort of awful plot twist that you shouldn't have killed that guy at all.
And I mean, I think we all remember the first moment we see in that moment at the end of Final Fantasy VII Disc 1. That just shatters everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's kind of...
Talk about a waste of investment.
That's the thing, and but it's...
That's the real crime.
It was...
I want my experience back.
It was brilliant because the game built it up in such a way that you... And then that is literally the last thing you think is going to happen. And it's one of those things where... That's what makes me at least feel tense about it, is that I don't know, you know, when something like that is going to happen and if it's going to happen. And in MMOs, it's like, well, I know if I'm good enough at the game that everyone's going to survive because I'm going to make sure they survive.
Yeah, because I've maxed out and I've got proper gear. And
exactly, yeah.
It just, I don't think, so far for me anyway, I don't think there's been an MMORPG that I feel has captured the elements of story.
Yeah.
That you know, an RPG, whether it's console or pen and paper, has. I mean, they've obviously got different prerogatives. You know, MMORPG is obviously a massively online player experience, so everyone has to play sharing the same stuff. But until they develop a game that caters just for me, that everyone else can look at, then I'm not going to be happy.
I've never had the experience of an MMO that actually convincingly pulls off a story.
I'm quite excited. I have to say, I'm quite excited. I don't know if the rest of you can follow it, but obviously the Firefly online game.
Yeah.
I've been reading bits and pieces about it, and you know, assembling your crew and stuff like that. But if you piss off your crew can leave.
That's brilliant.
But the thing is, if your crew leaves, let's say we're two captains, and now this is what I was reading on their Facebook page. Hopefully they don't change it. As a game mechanic, it sounded fantastic.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Let's say one of your crew members, you have a disagreement over something, and your crew member, you either kick them out or they leave or whatever, and they're in this bar. I can come across your former crewmate
and hire him
for my crew, but he now has a grudge against you. So I then get a mission to try and help make him feel better about himself by taking you out.
Oh, okay. Great.
There was talk of this.
That'd be an interesting.
You know, I'm quite interested in it. You know, hopefully I will get a chance to take it up.
That sounds good.
I think just as a big Joss Whedon fan, I will end up checking out that MMO. I don't really bother with MMOs generally, as I say, but I think that's one just because the simple fact that I want to explore that world. And
I'll always, you know, I like to sample some of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the biggest online game I'm playing at the moment, and it's not a role-playing game as such, but I'm League of Legends.
Yeah.
Well, I've been playing Hearthstone. It's kind of, but they're
it's not an RPG as such.
They're mechanical.
The only online game I play is Team Fortress. So then again, nothing.
Yeah, and I don't play any.
But the thing is, that's the thing. But even those mechanical games are cool because they also don't have that whole thing what MMOs have, as you say, where things have to happen at a specific time, the specific event set up. With these games, with League of Legends and Hearthstone and Team Fortress, you can turn the game on at your whim, play a few games, earn a bit of experience or a bit of gold or whatever, and then turn it off, and then you don't have to play it for... You leave literally for months on end, and you're not going to turn it on, and everything is different.
See, I think my problem is I can't get it out of my head. I remember hearing about when the Lich King was defeated in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first people who did that owned that experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have gone on to do, I defeated him with a party before, and, you know, it was great. Yeah. But at the end of the day, at the back of my mind, I was still kind of going, somebody's already defeated this guy.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of 100,000 other people have defeated him as well.
Yeah.
And I can come back in an hour and he's still going to be there.
Yeah. It creates, that's the thing, when someone with challenges like that, it takes away from the element of how unbeatable that level where you're kind of in your head going, how do I beat this guy? Because you're going into the battle knowing people of various levels and various ways of approaching the situation have already beaten them. You know, what do I really have to be afraid of?
Yeah, what do I get from it? Like, what can I take from it? I suppose we should kind of... I mean, that was the whole purpose of the weekend, was our own RPG weekend.
Yeah. Weekend-long campaign.
So, yeah, we had a weekend-long campaign.
Yeah, good fun.
I wrote it. It was titled The Legend of the Heavenly Seals. It was a GURPS-based system, which is I always say general, but it's generic.
Generic, yeah.
User.
Generic, universal.
Generic.
Generic
universal role-playing system.
Role-playing system.
So I just had GURPS system.
Yeah.
So it's just GURPS.
Just GURPS.
Either way, it's a really simple system.
It is.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's most, and you can obviously add your own stuff to it. Like,
Yeah,
we had the D20s and stuff like that we were playing there on, but I'm not really going to get into the system. But the basic premise of the story was, the guys here were playing obviously different characters, and the game took place in a world I created, based on, I suppose, a kind of a feudal Japanese society, with obviously some European inspired districts as well. So some characters had very obviously quite Japanese names, or Asian names anyway, and other characters had very Germanic names. So we had Shinji, and there was a Dietrich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was kind of it's like having Mary and Osama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a Mary and Osama out there somewhere.
No offense to any Marys or Osamas.
Yeah. Well, maybe one Osama. Getting political. Sorry, I've been watching The West Wing lately.
Do you reckon he listens to this?
From beyond the grave.
Yeah.
Deep down at the bottom of the ocean, he's in there with it.
Get his iPod on. Jesus Christ, that's not funny. We're making fun of someone who died. Who died?
Because that's the reason you shouldn't make fun of him.
Shut up. Let's move on quickly.
Yes.
Back to the RPG.
Yeah.
So the game was called The Legend of the Heavenly Seal. And all the guys here, and usually I don't like playing with groups of more than 4 players. It gets a little bit messy. Combat can be, it can take an age just to get through
one turn.
One turn, yeah. It's like, now it's your action, and now it's, the 4 or 5 sentry guards that have been chasing you, it's all their actions.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit of a nightmare, but we had 7 players, and they're all going to introduce themselves and the characters they played, and we're going to talk about the actual game, and they're all going to say they really, really liked it. They won't be invited back to play anymore.
I really, really liked it. I said it first, man.
Character I played was a pirate. She had grown up in a very traditionalistic town, grew up sort of as a boy, like with the sort of a male identity to earn skills and stuff, and eventually just kind of like set out on the seas to get her own riches and fame and make a life for herself.
Yeah, that sounds like her, alright.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And your character's name was, other than pirate?
Oh, sorry, her name was Leia Sao.
I was playing a lovely chap called what? What's wrong?
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually, before you start describing your character, I'm going to, just after this, there's going to be a clip of something, and then you can start talking about your character. I'll put it as the under.
Alright, yeah,
Oh,
well,
God.
basically, I was just playing this lovely chap called Zubin Long, who was pretty much just, normal bard.
A happy chap?
Just kind of wandered around being drunk and being kind of good at the loot. He invented smoke on the water.
He did. He did, and it was passed down from generation to generation.
It
to what
was,
it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty normal guy.
So there you go. Deep Purple got it from the Ancient East.
They did.
Yeah.
The ancient fantasies.
Yeah.
Fantasies.
That was created in this living room.
Yeah.
Did we just time travel? And cross different dimensions? Oh, okay.
My character name was Yakil. Y-A-K-I-L.
Not Yakult.
Not Yakult.
For a whole
His
day.
girlfriend was Danone.
They lived happily together. He was a mage with scholars specifically in the system, and he was an orphan who got power magic was outlawed, and he got the power magic through gangland activity, and he was in the city to make change happen. It was pointed out that my character was the only one, by pure coincidence, was the only one that was truly noble in how he was built and stuff, which I just kind of, without realizing it, I essentially just built a Final Fantasy archetype character. I think if just a kind of hero you'd encounter, a kind of character I think you'd encounter in one of those games. But yeah, that was his deal. He was just a spellcaster. I had 6 health for the vast portion of the game.
Which is now known as having an Anto.
Having an Anto, yeah, health was calculated.
How much Anto have you got?
Yeah, towards the end, actually, I was, Declan was gracious enough to grant me enough health to a twisted
Get out
series
the
of
front
events.
door.
Yeah, to give me 31 health, and then towards the end, when I got knocked back down to 6, I was like, well, it was fun being at the top, but
Just
Back to an Anto.
yeah, now I'm back to a regular Anto.
And then outside our regular staff writers, some of our mates came along.
Yeah, they're all right.
Who also make up most of our audience, / all of our audience. So we have Joe, and Joe's going to introduce his character.
Okay.
Hi, Joe.
Hello. Okay, let's see. My character was called Tieran. He was a sort of like a General Iroh character from Avatar. He was like 60 years old. Kind of drew him up, made him look like Jeff Bridges because I was watching a lot of Jeff Bridges movies before. Yeah.
Jeff Bridges.
Dude. Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, well, it's just,
Jessica Biel.
Jeff Bridges, you get out of here.
Oh, I thought Jessica was here.
We're gonna get sued.
He's getting sued. Somebody tells me Jeff Bridges. Wait, maybe if Osama is listening to us, he's gonna tell Jeff Bridges.
Are they mates?
I don't know, probably on Facebook.
Jeff, they're making fun of you on Arcadio.
Osama has poked you.
I wasn't making fun of him. I just liked him as an actor and like all his movies and stuff like that.
Don't worry, Joe. Jeff Bridges is not going to
Just covering the bases. But yeah, he sort of like General Iroh from Avatar. Like he was, sick of people getting killed in war and left the army, and he became a disgraced general and just started wandering the land. And
yeah, war's pretty shit, alright.
yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're Danny.
Ooh, yeah, Danny. Ooh.
And then I suppose Louise is going to introduce herself.
Yeah, I played a character called Sumiko. She was a samurai, working as part of the Empress's personal guard. But actually, she was the Empress.
Plot twist!
Wait a minute, what?
Declan, we're gonna need a spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
And she was the one who originally locked magic away 1,000 years ago and banned it throughout the country.
And then Danny.
I played a very lovable war criminal.
He was lovable.
Yeah.
Named Dietrich Klein, and he was
From the Klein clan.
From the Klein, the Clue Klein clan.
Oh, now Osama's definitely stopped listening.
I can't believe nobody made that joke. I was waiting for that.
We're classier than that joke.
Yeah, we all considered it, but just left it.
Yeah.
But
I was too noble.
effectively, my character was a politician who they didn't know this at the time, but he was unwittingly willed on by his uncles to send children into war. But all they knew is that he sent children into war.
He unwittingly was willed on to what? To send children to war.
It must also be pointed out that
He wanted the fame and the gold.
he pointed this particular part of his back history out after the game. We never
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah,
I
and they were
think-
just
I
like the
hinted
whole
at
thing.
it.
It was
That's a
hinted at,
bastard.
yeah.
That guy's
Yeah.
a bastard.
Um,
Whole game.
he was. And then we had Sean.
I'm over here.
Not talking about his character.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, he was a jerk anyway.
he was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
family murdering jerk.
Yeah.
So
What do you
I
have
was,
against families?
My name was Shinji in the game. My youth, I was running away from home because I didn't want to be a farmer. So joined.
Like everybody from Kerry.
Yeah.
Where Curry made his made.
So I joined.
This podcast brought to you by.
Where it is a mile.
Joined the army and rose through ranks pretty quickly. Then one night, after returning from patrol, I came in to find my family all butchered and some symbols were written on the wall.
Came in to find.
After I had killed them.
Well, I didn't realise I killed them at the time.
Yo,
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
he did a spot of redecorating. He did.
Uh,
Need a bit of red on the walls there.
So I guess the story of the game was they had all the characters had by fate met in the city. Either Louise arrested you or Anthony's character and Sean and Danny decided that they wanted to talk more about magic and these symbols that Sean's character witnessed painted on the walls of his home in private. So they ended up kind of meeting by chance, all 7 of them.
I do miss my library office.
You too. It was destroyed along with the orphanage.
Well, you weren't very good. He wasn't a very good library.
But the city, in the middle of the night, when they're, as they're all trying to figure out what the hell they're all doing together and what brought them together, the city is attacked out of nowhere, and they're caught in the middle of that. And it's explained to them just they're basically saved from death by a powerful force. And it's explained to them that basically they have to journey to the north. There's some serious activity taking place in an old ancient temple, and kind of with little else to go or nothing else to go on. That's what they did. They left together. Well, they were transported some distance away from the city burning, and they made their way north.
Yeah.
Hazardous.
Hazardously.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It was eventful.
It was stressful.
And there was not many friendly people along the way.
There was plenty of friendly people along the way.
I spent most of the time unconscious.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
And then you spent the rest of the time naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conscious or naked, but never both.
Yeah. Dang.
Much to Naomi's chagrin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what? I guess probably what I wanted to ask, what we should ask first is, because I mean, you were given a prologue. There was hints as to what might or might not be happening within the actual game. But you were going on very little other than the background of the world, the different cultures.
Yeah.
What were your initial expectations, or what were you expecting from the game?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of expecting a bit more of a Lord of the Rings Fellowship type of thing. It
Like
was,
we're walking.
yeah,
we're
which
walking,
is
there's
it's kind
some
of
elves. We're walking.
landscape shot.
There's a mountain. We're walking into it.
Yeah.
We're walking under
No
the
fans of
mountain.
Lord
If you want to see
Rings.
how it
I
ends,
love Lord of the Rings, but it's all walking.
if you want to see how it ends, please watch the next movie.
Don't get to buy tickets to that as well.
And don't forget to buy our limited edition DVD, 6 discs.
Shall we stop slamming Lord of the Rings and get back?
I want my money back, Peter Jackson.
I'll probably give it to you. He's a good sport.
Hey, Pete. Are you there, Pete?
Hi.
Clearly, that's just Naomi putting on Peter Jackson's voice.
No, I'm Peter Jackson.
Okay, enough from you, Peter Jackson.
He's my friend because I'm Jeff Bridges.
Dad, can we interview Peter Jackson
We
instead of the RP thing right now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Because I think he's got a lot to say.
But yeah, I kind of expect which is obviously the quest thing. Yes, there was a lot of us moving through forests and whatever. But I thought it would be a little bit more. We would know more of what we were doing. Most of the game, we didn't really know what was what, which kind of added tension to the whole thing because
and a lot of characters ended up there was a lot of character development by everyone.
I think that was probably my favourite part. There was an interesting thing where there were a lot of things about Danny in particular. I think
A lot of dynamics up in the air.
there were a lot of character backstories who were only sort of gradually revealed as it went on. And that was a really interesting thing to see happen.
There was also a lot of without all of our characters knew very little about each other. There was a great sense of kind of, we've just been put into this situation and now we have to deal with it, and we're the only ones alive. We're the only the group is the only people, or the only other people we know that don't want to kill us or don't want to hurt us. So we might as well just stick together and. Yeah.
Can I point out as well, actually, I wasn't really expecting the amount of mature content we'd have in this particular one. I thought it'd be a bit more lighthearted, kind of like, oh yeah, we were off on an adventure quest, but then it was like, wow, this child is naked and speaking very creepy.
Can we context?
Context. Sorry. If you'd let me finish the sentence, there would be fucking context.
Finish. Then.
This child was naked and speaking creepily because she was a ghost spirit. Jesus. It's like they immediately the naked child.
Don't worry, we can bleep that part out.
So that's actually a point that I kind of wanted to bring up was like my character at the start was she was sort of gold hungry, she was fame hungry, she was a pirate. I mean, she just wanted the wealth, and encountered this small spirit who was naked.
A childlike.
And like Declan played the creepy child.
Oh my god! I was naked for that part.
And it was very good.
It was really uncomfortable. We were asked her to put on clothes several times.
I don't want to play anymore, Declan.
Louise was not naked for her part.
Yeah, Declan played this sort of child, and it seemed like she approached me. She didn't know what humans were. She didn't know sort of generally about anything else in the world apart from where she was. And like my character was fucking terrified. She didn't know what was going on, but ended up having like a proper conversation with this kid and tried to explain that I was a person, that there were other people, we weren't all assholes. And the girl ended up giving my character a sort of just a power to use later on, because I had taught her that some people were good. And my character went through that sort of development of, actually, I don't want her to think I'm not a good person. I should probably be a good person after this. And Declan played it really fucking well, and it was really scary.
That exchange was overall probably my favourite part of the whole RPG. It was just,
that was up there, yeah.
Which actually was a big point for Declan. He used soundtracks.
Oh, Declan's soundtracks are the
and it was just this twisted, kind of discordant. It sounded like jewellery box kind of music, but it was just that in the background, and this exchange went on for about half an hour. And I remember we were all exchanging looks with each other, just being like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
I was touching myself.
Well, I was naked.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I mean, I will be honest. I had a whole different story originally planned in my head.
As usual.
And but it wasn't that I think anyone did or anything like that. I figured I'm going to see where this is going and how everyone's going to interact, because at first all the characters were so bloody different. And usually in the games I run, I tend to get an awful lot of magic users, and I have to say this probably it wouldn't be a very beginner friendly magic system. So if you hadn't played any of my magic systems before, like usually I have everything written out well in advance, and there's certain costs. And I mean, Sean, you've played my games before, and like literally you pick air magic. There are certain spells, and you can buy these spells and stuff like that, and the knowledge to get these spells. And I usually go down that route, but I just didn't this time. I said I'm going to try kind of a more open. I'm not sure. Personally, I'm not sure. I don't think I was the biggest fan of it.
No, I liked it.
I liked it.
I think as a GM, it gave you a lot more free reign.
See, it does. Like me personally, and because it's it's the system that I developed, then I can get into it. But I think for like in particular, you struggled an awful lot, Anto, with it. Not the system itself, but just because you to do 2 rolls. One for your first half of the spell and the other second half, and you might have passed the first half and then the second half failed and the spell is botched.
But with the system that you had created, it was just to explain, basically the 2 roles one was create and the second one was fire. So I would be starting the spell, and the second one would be adding the element to it. And but with that, it gave me a lot of open kind of idea. Admittedly, it was usually just generic kind of fireball to space, but like I could essentially create any kind of fire shape I wanted and kind of go for. I could have literally said I want to make a wall of fire behind the enemy guy, or I want to rain fire down or something like that. Or I want to rain fire down or something like that. And with just the spell just being create fire, I could hypothetically have created that. Yeah, and I suppose the last thing then really would be the actual ending of the game. Were you happy with the way it turned out? Or obviously not Joe.
I actually cried a little. I've held back the tears at the end.
Me and Naomi got we were fairly patted on the back fairly nicely.
And it was nice because our characters sort of bonded a lot during the adventure.
Because I was myself and Danny were the 2 mages of the party.
Yes.
We didn't. Myself and Danny's characters.
Kind of exact opposites of each other.
We kind of
have reason not to like each other. Truthfully,
like we kind of forced. It was definitely kind of a forced kind of let's not. It was kind of let's not talk about each other's pasts and just get on with it. And but as a result, kind of I ended up kind of being more trusted. Like when Naomi had the experience with the girl lacking clothes. After that, she turned to talk to me about it because she knew the two of us did Maddie, but I was the more trusted kind of character with that. But yeah, but it was nice for the two of us to kind of survive then at the end.
I have to say, Anto, as well, like, I mean, down to a plot circumstance as well. Like, certain scenarios where we could only notice certain symbols or seals, we would have to interact. Yeah. So, in other words, we kind of had to work together, like, and become friends. And that way.
Actually, just to say, Danny is a fierce douche when it comes to dialogue when he's a bad guy.
He is.
Yeah.
That was my highlight of it, I think.
Yeah.
I like taking away everything sentimental to heroes.
I can't get off on it.
Pretty much.
And then you got a bit creepy. So he was like, "Hey, pirate, do you want to get in my pants?"
That was an aspect that Declan brought up, but I liked it so much. I was like, I'm gonna totally.
And then I killed you.
Yeah. You did. Well, yeah, well, I suppose two of our characters died.
Yeah. Killed by me.
They were killed by. No, you only killed.
Two.
No, killed me.
Killed her and him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me as well.
Yeah. Two of our characters died at Sean's hands because Sean ended up becoming a villain.
And
totally enjoying it. And there's not enough time for me to get into the whole why Sean became the villain, but Sean's just a bastard, so I mean Shinji's the bastard. But yeah, so Louise and Joe died and Louise being the princess or the empress, her death signified something huge, given that she was the seal that needed to be protected or broken, depending on what side of this was the party you were on. And then Danny killed by Ryan. Just like I suppose you didn't kill him. You brought him to death. Point of death.
Technically, I didn't even throw it at him.
Yeah, I might have technically killed myself.
Kind of. Oh, look, a dagger.
That was actually a really interesting, just like, you know, in terms of things that we were doing and stuff. I don't think I've ever had quite so much of a challenge when it comes to the likes of doing combat scenes or anything in an RPG, because for backstory reasons, when I created my guy, we had a limit of about 7 skills that we could take. And I took the full 7, but I only was able to use 1 for the whole game.
Loot.
And exactly. And I cut a few of my own stats for part of the game just because it made sense. But I also didn't give myself any weapons.
You had wonderful rolls, though.
Combat was pretty tricky.
I suppose, for me personally, the best part of the game was when you split a guy's head open with a loot.
That was fun.
And the loot didn't break.
Yeah. That was fun.
As far as rolls go, actually, it was a nice middle ground. There was no one was rolling particularly well, or no one was rolling particularly badly,
unless they were Joe.
I was doing fine the day before, and then today everything just went hideously wrong.
So we've lost Naomi. So
Jeff Bridges killer.
Oh my God, they've eloped. Ryan, I'm so sorry. Peter Jackson is officiating the wedding.
But unless she's going into full costume.
I think she's going to cosplay the little moon naked girl.
Oh my God, my eyes!
It's a good thing we
I know.
Good girl video feed.
Yeah. Or do we? So we're going to leave. God, I don't know if I said we're going to leave this for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's why we do it over Skype from now on. That way I can actually track the time. But yeah, that kind of wraps up the 3rd episode of Arcade Radio. Arcadio, yeah. How do you feel about that?
Podcade.
Podcade, so.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, don't worry. It'll make it come back.
I'm going to start my own podcast.
I was saying podcast.
Thanks, Daddy.
So yeah, from everybody here at
RPG.
Arcade HQ, that's it for us this week, and we'll be seeing you for the next show. We haven't exactly decided what that's about.
Yeah,
probably a week or 2, give or take.
Yeah, it's a fortnight podcast. Yeah, classy like that. I don't know why fortnightly makes us classy, but it does.
We are a classy bunch.
Yeah, we are. We're not. Bye.
See ya.
Laters.
Send nudes.